In this video we're going to be delving into the main body of the Lankavatara Sutra. We've been working through the verse summary and we've reached verse 310, which talks of the 5 Dharmas, the 5 factors of enlightenment practice. And I covered these in the previous video. And the video before that one was also a preparation for this one. So if you haven't listened to the previous 2 videos, then it might be a good idea to do so, because I'm going to delve straight into section 83, which appears in chapter 6 of the Lankavatara Sutra. It should be quite straightforward if you've listened to and absorbed the previous 2 videos. Then this should be quite straightforward, and it's nice to have an opportunity to delve into the main body of the text. And as usual I'll put the text in the notes section below the video, and the text will also be included in the video index, which is available on my website. So this is about the 5 Dharmas. At that time, Mahamati the Bodhisattva-Mahasattva made a request of the Blessed One, saying, "Pray tell me, Blessed One, pray tell me, Sugata, concerning the distinguishing aspects of the 5 Dharmas, the 3 Svabhavas, the 8 Vijnanas, and the twofold egolessness." By recognizing the distinguishing aspects of the twofold egolessness, I and other Bodhisattva-Mahasattvas will be able to establish those truths while effecting a continuous development through the various stages of Bodhisattvahood. It is said that by these truths we can enter into all the Buddha truths, and that by entering into all the Buddha truths we can enter even into the ground of the Tathagata's inner realization. So, this isn't a conceptual undertaking. What we're being told here is that by understanding the 5 Dharmas, or actually what's called here the twofold egolessness, we are entering into the Bodhisattva Path, which takes us to the same realization as the Buddhas. So it's not to be sneezed at, is it? And this isn't about a conceptual understanding. As I spelled out in the previous video, this is a way of practicing. I should point out that we don't need to worry about the Svabhavas and the Vijnanas. These are all included in the Dharmas. Now this twofold egolessness, this is the egolessness of the world and the egolessness of the individual. What egolessness means here is the insubstantiality of the world, the insubstantiality of the individual. There's nothing going on behind the scenes. The modern mind assumes that there is. This is what science is about, this is what physics is about. There's the assumption that there's something going on behind the scenes. We can have scenes within scenes, of course, but ultimately there's nothing going on behind them. It's a drama, a play, plays within plays. This is the realization. All our mental, emotional anguish is assuming that there's something going on. What is the mountain in a dream made up of? It's made up of the same stuff that a real mountain is made up of. This is the realization. And if you've been with me up until now, then that should come as no shock. This is the nature of Buddhist insight. And this is what we have to keep appreciating, this twofold egolessness. You can appreciate it by whatever means possible, by recognizing the distinguishing aspects of the twofold egolessness. This is the method by which we traverse the bhumis. This is the Bodhisattva Path. It's the path that leads us to all the Buddha truths, to the ground of the Tathagata's inner realization. So I should probably say something about how the twofold egolessness relates to the five dharmas from the previous video. In failing to realize the insubstantiality of the world and the insubstantiality of the individual, we get caught up in discrimination. We get caught up in identification. Our attention gets diverted by things, it gets diverted by appearances. We give these appearances a name. We discriminate them as individual entities. These are the first three dharmas. This is what keeps us trapped in ignorance. But in realizing this, we gain what's called right knowledge. This is the insight. This is the insight into egolessness. And then once this insight happens, once there's this realization, we are touching suchness. This is the fifth dharma. So once we realize the twofold egolessness, the first three dharmas are undermined, and the fourth and the fifth dharma come into play. So these are the factors of enlightenment practice. Said the Blessed One, "Then, Mahamati, listen well and reflect well within yourself. I will tell you." "Certainly, Blessed One," said Mahamati the Bodhisattva-Mahasattva, and gave ear to the Blessed One. The Blessed One said to him, "Mahamati, I will tell you about the distinguishing aspects of the five dharmas, the three Svabhavas, the 8 Vijnanas, and the twofold egolessness. The five dharmas are name, form, discrimination, right knowledge, and suchness. When these are thoroughly comprehended by the yogins, they enter into the course of the Tathagata's inner realization, where they are kept away from such views as eternalism and nihilism, realism and negativism, and where they come face to face with the abode of happiness belonging to the present existence as well as to the samapatti, tranquilization." So these are the five dharmas: name, form, discrimination, right knowledge, and suchness. And when these are thoroughly comprehended, when these are thoroughly realized as the factors of enlightenment practice, then we enter into the Tathagata's inner realization. And we're kept away from such views as eternalism and nihilism, realism and negativism. And I covered all of that 2 videos ago. These aren't just abstract philosophical notions. These are the colours of our moods. So, keeping away from such views as eternalism and nihilism, realism and negativism is about stepping back from the momentum of our moods, from the habit energy of our moods. And when we do that, we come face to face with the abode of happiness belonging to the present existence. And this is an important point, the abode of happiness of the present existence. This means at the present moment. Spiritual practice isn't something which we cloister ourselves away and do. It isn't something that we have to wait until certain conditions come into play. Spiritual practice, every moment is the opportunity for spiritual practice. Every mood that you're in is the opportunity for spiritual practice. So that's the power of this phrase here, belonging to the present existence, the present moment. And if we're successful in our practice, we enter into samapatti, what's called here tranquilization. And it's tranquilization with respect to the external world and with respect to our own moods. Having realized the twofold egolessness, we no longer allow it to upset us. We become tranquil. It can be a tough one. I'm going through quite a difficult time at the moment to do with my wife's visa. We're up against the most appalling bureaucracy. Intensely frustrating. We've messed up my wife's visa through no fault of our own, leaving her status here completely uncertain. It's terrible. And it's impossible to get through to anybody. It's this massive bureaucracy, which is the UK border agency. It really is quite heinous. It's utterly appalling the way they treat people and mess around their lives, and they're a complete law unto themselves. And this is an organisation that's been described as not fit for purpose through the news media, but they still seem to be carrying on not being fit for purpose. Anyway, that's just an example. There is so much of this to deal with, so much of everyday life, so many challenges, and never mind all that, we've also got the challenge of our own psychology, our own moods. My goodness, what a lot to deal with. But this teaching gives us a way of handling it all by giving us a perspective, a perspective which brings us to the abode of happiness right now and to tranquility. I should just say it comes and goes. The challenge is ongoing. But Mahamati, as the ignorant do not understand that the 5 Dharmas, the 3 Svabhavas, the 8 Vijnanas, and the twofold egolessness, together with the external objects which are regarded as existent and non-existent, all these are no more than what is seen of the mind itself. They are given to discrimination, but it is otherwise with the wise. These external objects which are regarded as existent and non-existent, again this relates to the twofold egolessness. We tend to think of the world out there as what's real, as what exists. And we've got our inner world, our imaginary, insubstantial world, which somehow we relegate to the physical reality. We regard it as non-existent. It's just imagination. It doesn't really exist. So all our thoughts and ideas and imaginings, these are what's non-existent. So what's existent and what's non-existent again covers all of what we normally understand as reality. But what the point here is, we don't want to get too dogged about all of this. We don't want to get into categorizing everything, even according to Buddhist terminology. It's all mind itself. This is the final realization, the realization of the insight of the Tathagata. It's all mind itself. Next thing is Mahamati asks how it is that the ignorant are given up to discrimination and the wise are not. And I'll cover that in the next video.